Imagine knowing from the time you were young roughly how your life would end and how little time you would have. Not as a vague awareness of mortality, but as a clear, settled fact woven into your childhood. Now ask yourself a harder question. Would you spend that life raging against the unfairness of it, or would you fill it with friendship, love, small joys, and the ordinary days that make existence feel worth having? This is not just a thought experiment. In a quieter way, it is the situation every human being is already in, because every life is shorter than we let ourselves admit. And one remarkable novel takes that buried truth and brings it gently, devastatingly, into the light. That novel is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro, a writer celebrated for revealing enormous emotional depths beneath calm, restrained surfaces. The story follows three friends who grow up together at a sheltered English school, slowly coming to understand a painful truth about the purpose their lives were created to serve. What unfolds is not a story of dramatic rebellion, but something far more haunting and far more human. It is a story about how people live, love, and find meaning even when the shape of their ending is already known. From its earliest pages, the book studies the psychology of acceptance, and it does so without judgment. The characters do not, for the most part, fight their fate with fury. They absorb it slowly, as children absorb the rules of the world they are born into, and they go on living within it. To some readers, this feels maddening. Why don't they run? Why don't they resist? But the author is showing something deeply true about human nature. People rarely rebel against the conditions they have always known. The water you have always swum in does not look like water at all. It looks like the world. The story quietly asks you to notice the limits you have accepted in your own life without ever questioning, the invisible rules you obey simply because they have always been there. What have you stopped fighting, not because it is right, but because it is familiar? The novel also explores with extraordinary tenderness the way ordinary moments carry the entire weight of a life. Because the characters have so little time, the small things, a shared memory, a beloved object, a quiet afternoon with friends, become almost unbearably precious. The book lingers on these moments, treating them with the reverence they deserve, and in doing so it exposes how carelessly most people treat their own ordinary days, assuming there will always be more of them. This is the heart of the story's emotional power. It makes you feel in your chest how much beauty lives in the unremarkable hours you usually overlook. Think honestly about your own life. How many ordinary days have you let pass without noticing, as though they were endless? There is a powerful thread running through the book about art, creativity, and the proof of an inner life. The characters, as children, are encouraged to make art, and the question of what their creativity reveals about them becomes quietly central to the story. The author uses this to probe a profound idea. What is the evidence of a soul? What proves that a being has an inner world, feelings, and worth? The novel suggests that the things we create, the love we feel, the connections we form, are themselves the proof of our humanity. It explores how art and tenderness become the truest record that a person was here, that they felt deeply, that their existence mattered. It leaves you wondering what your own life is creating as evidence that you were fully, genuinely alive. At its center, the story is a meditation on love against the backdrop of loss. The friendship and romance among the three main characters unfold under the shadow of their shared fate, and this gives every tender moment an aching weight. The book examines how love does not erase mortality, but somehow makes it bearable. How the connections between people become the thing that gives a finite life its meaning. The characters do not find a way to escape their ending. What they find is each other, and the story suggests that this might be the most that any of us can hope for. It raises a quiet, piercing question. If your time were truly limited and you knew it, would the people you love look more precious than they do right now? And what would change if you let them look that precious today? The narrative structure itself deepens the novel's emotional effect. The story is told in retrospect by a narrator looking back across her life with a tone of gentle, wistful calm. This backward gaze gives everything a sense of having already passed, of being remembered rather than lived, which mirrors how memory actually works. The most meaningful moments of a life often reveal their full weight only in hindsight, when they can no longer be returned to. The author captures this beautifully, showing how the narrator understands the preciousness of her time most clearly once it is nearly gone. It is a quietly universal experience. So much of what we love we recognize as irreplaceable only after it has slipped beyond reach. What makes the book so resonant in the present moment is its refusal to be only sad. Beneath the sorrow lies something steadier and more affirming. The story insists that a life is not made meaningless by being short, that love is not made pointless by ending, that the value of an experience does not depend on how long it lasts. In an age obsessed with extending, optimizing, and maximizing everything, the novel offers a different and gentler wisdom. It suggests that meaning is found not in the quantity of time, but in the depth with which time is lived, in the willingness to love fully, even knowing that everything ends. There is also a subtle exploration of dignity throughout the book. The characters meet their circumstances with a quiet grace that is, in its own way, a form of strength. They do not become bitter or cruel. They hold on to kindness, to friendship, to the gentle rituals of their days. The story seems to suggest that how a person carries themselves through hardship, the grace and tenderness they preserve even in the face of loss, is a kind of victory that circumstances cannot take away. It is a portrait of human dignity that lingers long after the final page, asking what it might mean to face your own limits with the same quiet courage. The sheltered school where the characters spend their childhood functions as a powerful symbol throughout the book. It is a place of protection and beauty, but also of careful concealment, where painful truths are kept just out of reach and revealed only slowly. The author uses this setting to explore how childhood itself often works, as a guarded space where the full weight of reality is gently withheld until a person is old enough to bear it. The story examines the tenderness and the sorrow of that protection, the way those who care for children must decide how much truth to share and when. It quietly asks how much of your own early understanding of the world was softened, delayed, or hidden by those trying to shield you, and how it felt to finally see clearly. There is also a haunting study of false hope woven through the story. The characters cling to rumors of a possible reprieve, a way their fate might be postponed if they can only prove something about themselves. This longing for a way out, this hope that love or worthiness might change the unchangeable, is rendered with aching compassion. The author examines how the human mind reaches for hope even in the most hopeless circumstances, and how that hope, even when it leads nowhere, reveals the depth of a person's will to live and to love. It is a portrait of how people survive the unbearable by believing, against all evidence, that there might be a door somewhere. Have you ever held tightly to a hope precisely because letting go of it felt impossible to survive? Perhaps the most quietly devastating aspect of the book is the way it portrays facing the end with grace rather than rage. The characters meet their circumstances with a calm that is neither numbness nor surrender, but something closer to a hard-won acceptance. The author seems to suggest that there is a kind of dignity available even in situations that cannot be changed, a dignity found not in escaping fate, but in how one chooses to meet it. This is one of the story's most profound and unsettling gifts. It refuses easy answers about whether the characters should have fought harder, and instead asks you to sit with the difficult beauty of people who face their limits with tenderness intact. It leaves you wondering how you would wish to carry yourself in the face of what cannot be undone. In the end, Never Let Me Go does not leave you with despair. It leaves you with a heightened tenderness toward the ordinary, irreplaceable life you are living right now. It reminds you that time is shorter and more precious than you usually allow yourself to feel, that the people around you are not permanent, and that the small moments you overlook may be the very things that gave your life its meaning all along. A story that makes you hold your own days more gently has given you something rare. Books aren't just stories, they're mirrors that help us understand ourselves better. Comment below with the book you would like explored next and the moment in your own life you most wish you had noticed while it was happening. If this kind of reflective book analysis means something to you, consider liking and subscribing so more of it can reach you. This video uses AI-generated audio and visuals for educational purposes only. This is just one reader's personal thoughts and interpretations.